Hey, what is going on? In this video, I wanted to cover some simple financial concepts and things that really everyone should have considered and be implementing. And I'm realizing now that a lot of these seem simple, but really no one's doing it. So hopefully this video will go through some of that so you can better prepare yourself for 2025 and have your money right. So let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to cover was budgeting. So I know no one likes doing it, but ultimately you need to know what money is coming in and what money is going out so that at the end of the month you're not in the negative, right? You don't want to be blowing every single penny you make and some. That's not sustainable and you'll quickly find out just how bad that can get. So ideally you'd want to set up, a simple budget. It doesn't have to be too complicated. Write down, what your incomes are. Typically for most people, it's just going to be their 9 to 5 job that's giving most of their income. So that's the income. The area that they need to work on though is the expense line, right? So your rent, your food, your car payment, everything like that needs to be listed down and accounted for. Once you have an idea of what that looks like, then you can really figure out your plan long term. So sometimes people ask like, oh, do I start investing? What do I invest in? Things like that. But they're not at that stage yet. So if we were to break it down into 3 stages, step number one or stage one really is to create that budget or have an idea of what you're making, what you're spending, and getting those numbers dialed in. It doesn't have to be exact, but it really helps to have an idea of what we're looking at. Otherwise, you won't know how much you can invest or how much debt you can pay off, that kind of stuff. So that's stage one. Now, stage two, I would say, is once you've got the budget sorted out and okay, this month I made 4 grand, but I spent 2 grand on expenses, so I have an extra 2 grand left over. Great, now you know what you can work with in terms of saving and investing. Now let's go into stage two. This is when you're actually, you have an idea of what your income and expenses look like. So let's say you make 4 grand in this month, you spent about 3 grand in expenses, and now you got about 1 grand to play with for the month. Great, that's awesome. Now in stage two, what really matters is figuring out what debt you have, because as much as you want to save and invest and all that good stuff, you really can't make too much happen if you're paying off like 20% credit card debt, right? Like you're paying 20% on your credit card, you're not going to get a 20% guaranteed return in the market. So it's best to deal with that high interest debt first before you move on to actually investing. And believe me, if you set up these foundations right, it's going to benefit you so much in the long run. So stage two is paying off that high interest debt. For a lot of people, it's just their credit card, maybe a couple thousand on the credit card, tackle it, handle it there. Once you got that under control, then you can move on to stage three. So for stage three, it's now basically, you've got your budget, you know what's coming in, what's going out. You paid down most of your high interest debt. Now it's just maybe like a few things here and there, but they're not high interest. Maybe we're talking like under 7%, so that's not too big of an issue. Now the third step really is to create that emergency fund. So I know right before you can dive into investing, there's just still another step you got to do, and that is around the emergency fund. So I think they say to aim for about 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. So in that previous example, the expenses were about 3 grand a month. So you want to have at least maybe 9 grand, 9 to 10 grand saved up in your emergency fund minimum before you go ahead and start investing properly. So I know it's going to take a while to get there, but by setting up the foundation and having these things in place, honestly, you're going to be so much better off. So now we can move on to stage four, and this is when you start investing. You have your budget, you have most of your high debt paid off, you have your emergency fund, and now this is when you can start actually investing and getting a return on your money. I won't go into detail on how to invest in this video, but leave some comments below and I can definitely, talk a bit more on those topics as well as share, some of the things I invest in and how you can get similar returns, that kind of stuff. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, just want to preface that. But yeah, those 4 stages are really crucial for, getting your stuff together, getting your money right in 2025 and beyond. One last point I wanted to touch on briefly was around, the fact that you can only lower your expenses so much, right? There's a limit to how much you can lower it, but when it comes to increasing your income, that it's infinite, right? You can just keep scaling that up and up. So early on, yeah, maybe you do want to cut a little bit of expenses, just things that you don't really care about, whatever. But ideally, long term, you want to focus on increasing your income and really scaling that up, right? And one great way to do that is through investing in assets, which, like we talked about, before you get to that stage, you gotta set up the financial foundation. So just to recap, 4 stages: you gotta set up your budget, have your foundations, pay off the high interest debt, have the emergency fund, emergency savings, and then you can start investing and actually seeing returns on your money, building assets, increasing your income, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's it. I hope this video really helps some people out there, and please leave me a comment, share some things that you'd like me to talk about and share more information on. Super super happy to, just help other folks that have been in my shoes, right? Like I'm only 27, but I remember when I was 20 and had nothing figured out, nothing going on. So if I can help the younger version of myself or whoever else is out there, then that means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to you as well. So bye now.